Let's start by understanding how life organizes itself. In single-celled organisms, one cell does absolutely everything. It digests food, breathes, and reproduces all on its own. But when you move to multicellular animals like us, or frogs, things get much more sophisticated. Different groups of cells specialize and work together in a really organized way. When you have groups of similar cells working together with some material between them to do a specific job, that's what we call a tissue. It's the first level of organization beyond individual cells. Here's something that might surprise you. No matter how complex an animal is, its entire body is made of just 4 basic tissue types. These tissues get organized in specific proportions and patterns to form organs like your stomach, lungs, heart, and kidneys. When 2 or more organs team up to perform a common function, they form what we call an organ system. The digestive system and respiratory system are good examples. The beautiful thing about this organization is the division of labor. Cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems all have their specific jobs, and together they keep the whole body alive and functioning. Let's see how this organization works in practice. We have this beautiful hierarchical system where basic tissues come together to form organs, and these organs then associate to form organ systems. This kind of organization isn't just for show, it's absolutely essential for coordinating the activities of millions of cells efficiently. And here's an important point. Each organ can be made of just one tissue type or several different types working together. Take your heart as an example. It's made of all 4 tissue types, epithelial, connective, muscular, and neural tissues all working together. Pretty amazing, right? Now, we need to understand 2 important terms. Morphology refers to the study of external features, what you can see from the outside. Anatomy, on the other hand, is the study of internal organ structure. When we study frogs today, we'll look at both their morphology and anatomy to get a complete picture. Now let's meet our study organism, the frog. Frogs belong to the class Amphibia in the Phylum Chordata. If you're in India and you see a frog, it's most likely the species Rana tigrina. That's the common Indian bullfrog. The word amphibia is really fitting because these animals can live both on land and in freshwater. They're perfectly adapted for this dual lifestyle, as we'll see. Here's something fundamental about frogs. They're cold-blooded animals, or, as scientists say, poikilotherms. This means they can't control their body temperature like we do. Instead, their body temperature changes with their surroundings. When it's cold outside, they're cold. When it's warm, they warm up. This really affects how active they can be at different times. Frogs have developed some clever survival strategies. They can actually change their color to hide from predators. You might notice a frog looks different when it's in grass versus when it's on dry land. This protective coloration is called mimicry. They're mimicking their environment to stay safe. It's one of nature's amazing defense mechanisms. You've probably noticed that frogs seem to disappear during the hottest summer months and the coldest winter months. That's because they practice what we call aestivation in summer and hibernation in winter. They dig deep burrows and go into a kind of sleep to protect themselves from extreme temperatures. It's their way of surviving conditions that would otherwise be deadly. Let's start looking at the frog's external features, beginning with the skin. If you've ever touched a frog, you know the skin is smooth and slippery. That's because of the mucus covering it. The skin is always kept moist. This is really important for their survival, as we'll see. On the upper or dorsal side, frogs are generally olive green with dark, irregular spots. This coloring helps them blend in with their environment. The belly or ventral side is uniformly pale yellow. Now here's something really cool about frogs. They never actually drink water. Instead, they absorb it directly through their skin. This is why keeping the skin moist is so critical for them. Without that moisture, they literally can't take in water. It's a completely different system from what we use. The body structure of a frog is pretty straightforward. It's divided into just 2 parts, head and trunk. There's no neck and no tail in adult frogs. On the head, you'll find a pair of nostrils above the mouth. The eyes are bulged out and covered by a special nictitating membrane that protects them when the frog is underwater. On either side of the eyes, there's a membranous structure called the tympanum. That's the frog's ear, and it receives sound signals. The limbs are really interesting because they serve multiple purposes: swimming, walking, leaping, and even burrowing. The forelimbs end in 4 digits, while the hind limbs are larger, more muscular, and have 5 digits. You'll notice the feet have web digits. Those webs between the toes are perfect for swimming. Now, here's how you can tell males from females. Males have sound-producing vocal sacs and special copulatory pads on the first digit of their forelimbs. Females don't have these features. This difference between males and females is called sexual dimorphism. Now let's look inside and see how frogs process their food. The digestive system has 2 main parts: the alimentary canal and the digestive glands. The food path goes from the mouth into the buccal cavity, through the pharynx to the esophagus, then to the stomach, intestine, rectum, and finally exits through the cloaca. The whole canal is relatively short. Why? Because frogs are carnivores. Meat is much easier to digest than plant material, so they don't need the long intestines that plant eaters have. The 2 main digestive glands are the liver and pancreas. The liver secretes bile, which gets stored in the gallbladder until it's needed. The pancreas produces pancreatic juice containing various digestive enzymes. And here's something cool about how frogs eat. They have this bilobed tongue that they use to capture their prey. It's quick and sticky, perfect for catching insects. Let's follow the digestion process step by step. In the stomach, food gets broken down by HCl and gastric juices secreted from the stomach walls. This creates a partially digested mixture called chyme. The chyme then moves into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. Here's where things get interesting. The duodenum receives bile from the gallbladder and pancreatic juice from the pancreas through a common bile duct. Both of these secretions are crucial for further digestion. Here's what each secretion does. Bile breaks down fats into smaller droplets. We call this emulsification. The pancreatic juice works on digesting carbohydrates and proteins. Final digestion happens in the intestine, and then comes absorption. The intestine wall has numerous finger-like folds called villi and even tinier microvilli. These create a huge surface area for absorbing all the digested nutrients. Whatever can't be digested moves into the rectum and passes out through the cloaca. Frogs face a unique challenge. They need to breathe in 2 completely different environments. So they've developed 2 different methods. When they're underwater, the skin becomes their breathing organ. This is called cutaneous respiration. Dissolved oxygen in the water gets exchanged through the skin by a simple diffusion. On land, they use 3 organs together: the buccal cavity, skin, and lungs all help with breathing. Breathing through the lungs is called pulmonary respiration. The lungs themselves are a pair of elongated, pink, sac-like structures located in the upper part of the trunk region, which we call the thorax. Air enters through the nostrils, passes into the buccal cavity, and then goes to the lungs. Now remember those dormant periods we talked about? During aestivation and hibernation, when frogs are in their deep sleep, gaseous exchange happens only through the skin. The lungs aren't being used at all during these times. Now let's look at how blood moves through the frog's body. Frogs have a well-developed closed circulatory system, meaning the blood always stays inside vessels. Actually, they have 2 systems working together: the blood vascular system and a lymphatic system. The heart is a muscular structure sitting in the upper part of the body cavity. Unlike our 4-chambered heart, the frog heart has 3 chambers, 2 upper chambers called atria and 1 lower chamber called the ventricle. The whole heart is wrapped in a protective membrane called the pericardium. Let's trace the blood flow. There's a triangular structure called the sinus venosus that joins the right atrium. This receives blood through major veins called the vena cava. On the other side, the ventricle opens into a sac-like structure called the conus arteriosus on the lower or ventral side of the heart. This is where blood exits the heart. The blood then travels through arteries to reach all parts of the body. That's the arterial system. The veins do the opposite job, collecting blood from different body parts and bringing it back to the heart. That's the venous system. Frogs have some special blood circulation features. They have what we call portal systems. These are special venous connections. The hepatic portal system connects the liver and intestine, while the renal portal system links the kidney and lower parts of the body. These portal systems allow for efficient processing of nutrients and wastes. Blood itself is made of two main parts, the liquid plasma and the cells floating in it. The cells include RBCs, or red blood cells, WBCs, or white blood cells, and platelets. Here's something interesting about frog red blood cells. Unlike human RBCs, they have a nucleus. They still contain hemoglobin, though, which is that red pigment that carries oxygen. The lymphatic system contains lymph, which is similar to blood but lacks some proteins and doesn't have any RBCs. What does blood actually do? It carries nutrients from digestion, gases for respiration, and water to wherever they're needed. All this circulation happens because of the pumping action of that muscular heart we talked about. Getting rid of nitrogenous waste is handled by a well-developed excretory system. The main components are a pair of kidneys, ureters, the cloaca, and a urinary bladder. The kidneys look compact, dark red, and bean-shaped. You'll find them in the back part of the body cavity on both sides of the vertebral column. Each kidney is made up of several structural and functional units called nephrons. You might also hear them called uriniferous tubules. These nephrons are where the actual filtering happens. There's a difference between males and females here. In males, two ureters emerge from the kidneys and act as urinogenital ducts. They carry both urine and sperm, and these open into the cloaca. In females, the ureters and oviducts open separately into the cloaca. There's also a thin-walled urinary bladder located below or ventral to the rectum, and this also opens into the cloaca. Frogs are what we call ureatelic animals. They excrete urea as their main nitrogenous waste. The blood carries these waste products to the kidneys, where they get filtered out and excreted. The system for control and coordination is really sophisticated in frogs. They use two systems working together, the neural system and the endocrine glands. The endocrine glands achieve chemical coordination by releasing hormones. The main glands are the pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, pineal body, pancreatic islets, adrenals, and gonads. The nervous system is organized into three parts. There's the central nervous system with the brain and spinal cord, the peripheral nervous system with cranial and spinal nerves, and the autonomic nervous system with its sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. There are 10 pairs of cranial nerves that come directly from the brain. The brain itself is well protected, enclosed in a bony structure we call the cranium or brain box. This is similar to our skull. The brain has 3 main divisions, which we'll look at in detail next. The frog's brain is divided into 3 main parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Let's start with the forebrain. It includes the olfactory lobes, which handle the sense of smell. Then there are the paired cerebral hemispheres and a single unpaired structure called the diencephalon. Moving to the midbrain, the characteristic feature here is a pair of optic lobes. These are involved in processing visual information. The hindbrain has 2 main parts. There's the cerebellum, which helps with coordination, and the medulla oblongata, which controls vital functions like breathing and heart rate. The medulla oblongata passes out through an opening called the foramen magnum and continues as the spinal cord. The spinal cord runs down the back, protected by the vertebral column. This gives us a continuous nervous pathway from the brain all the way down the body. Frogs have 5 different types of sense organs to interact with their environment. For touch, they have sensory papillae. Taste is handled by taste buds. The sense of smell comes from the nasal epithelium. Vision uses the eyes, and hearing uses the tympanum along with internal ears. Now, these aren't all equally complex. The eyes and internal ears are really well-organized structures with complex anatomy. The other sense organs are simpler. They're basically cellular aggregations around nerve endings. But they all work together to give the frog a complete picture of its surroundings. Let's look at the 2 most complex sense organs. The eyes are a pair of spherical structures sitting in the orbits of the skull. These are what we call simple eyes because they have just one unit. They're not compound eyes like what insects have. For ears, frogs don't have any external ear structure. You can only see the tympanum on the outside. But inside, there's a complete ear structure. Interestingly, the ear serves a dual purpose. It's used for both hearing sounds and maintaining balance or equilibrium. Frogs have well-organized reproductive systems. Let's start with the males. The male reproductive organs consist of a pair of testes. These are yellowish and oval-shaped, we say ovoid. The testes are attached to the upper part of the kidneys by a double fold of tissue called the mesorchium. From each testis, there are 10 to 12 tubes called vasa efferentia that carry sperm. Let's trace the path of sperm. The vasa efferentia enter the kidneys, then open into a structure called Bitter's canal. From there, everything connects to the urinogenital duct, which exits the kidney and opens into the cloaca. The cloaca is really interesting. It's a small, common chamber that handles multiple functions. It passes fecal matter from digestion, urine from the excretory system, and sperms from the reproductive system all to the outside. It's a multifunctional exit point. The female reproductive system includes a pair of ovaries. These are located near the kidneys, but unlike in males, there's no functional connection between the ovaries and kidneys. From the ovaries, there's a pair of oviducts. These are the tubes that carry eggs. These oviducts open separately into the cloaca, not through the kidney like in males. Here's something impressive. A mature female can lay anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 eggs at one time. That's a huge number of eggs. Fertilization in frogs happens externally in the water. The female releases eggs and the male releases sperm, and they meet outside the body. Development is really fascinating because it involves a larval stage. The eggs hatch into tadpoles, which look completely different from adult frogs. Tadpoles are aquatic. They have tails. They don't have legs initially. Then they undergo this amazing transformation called metamorphosis, where they gradually develop legs, lose their tail, and become adult frogs. It's one of the most dramatic life cycle changes in the animal kingdom. Let's talk about why frogs are important to us and to ecosystems. First, they're really beneficial for farming. Frogs eat huge numbers of insects, which helps protect crops from pest damage. They provide natural pest control, which means farmers might need fewer chemical pesticides. That's good for both agriculture and the environment. Beyond agriculture, frogs play a critical role in maintaining ecological balance. They're an important link in food chains and food webs. They're predators that control insect populations, but they're also prey for birds, snakes, and other animals. This makes them vital for ecosystem health. In some countries, people also eat frogs. Specifically, the muscular legs are considered a delicacy. But more importantly, we need to think about conservation. Declining frog populations can be an early warning sign of environmental problems, so protecting them helps protect entire ecosystems. Let's review the key concepts we've covered. The fundamental principle of animal organization is division of labor. This happens at multiple levels. Cells group into tissues, tissues form organs, and organs create organ systems. Remember that a tissue is defined as a group of similar cells along with intercellular substances that perform specific functions. All complex animals, no matter how different they look, are built from just 4 basic tissue types. Epithelial tissues are especially important. They're sheet-like tissues that line the body's surfaces and its internal cavities, ducts, and tubes. They always have one free surface facing either a body fluid or the outside environment. Now let's summarize what we learned about frogs specifically. The Indian bullfrog, Rana tigrina, belongs to class Amphibia. The skin is always kept moist and is highly vascularized, which helps with respiration both in water and on land. The body is divided into head and trunk, with a bilobed tongue used for capturing prey. The main digestive glands are the liver and pancreas. Frogs have this amazing dual respiration system. They breathe through their skin underwater and through lungs on land. The circulatory system is closed-type, and their red blood cells are nucleated, unlike ours. The nervous system is organized into central, peripheral, and autonomic divisions. For reproduction, Females lay 2,500 to 3,000 eggs at a time. Fertilization is external, and development includes a tadpole stage that undergoes metamorphosis to become an adult frog. This complete study of the frog gives us a perfect example of how a vertebrate body is organized from cells all the way up to a functioning organism.
Meet Iyal, your AI study companion. Transform PDFs into smart study guides, practice tests, and flashcards for UPSC, NEET, banking, and any competitive exam.
Master your exam preparation with Iyal.